Welcome to the Touch MBA Admissions Podcast. Do you need help figuring out which schools to apply to or how to get into the world's top MBA programs? Hey, you're not alone. Join thousands of others on this podcast and on our site, touchmba.com, as they seek the admissions edge. And now, here's your host, Darren Joe.
Welcome to episode 33 of the Touch MBA podcast. Here at Touch MBA, we're all about helping you find the best MBA programs for you that fit your career goals, that fit your personal goals. And sometimes the best schools for you aren't the best known schools. And this week we're featuring one of those schools. That's ESMT, based in Berlin, Germany. Now, ESMT is a relatively young school. It was founded a little over 10 years ago by 25 leading companies in Germany who wanted to develop management talent in-house in the country. And their MBA program started in 2006. It's a one-year program that starts in January. It's small. It's about 60 students per class, but it's super international. About 90% of the class is from outside Germany, coming from about 30 countries. And of course, being in Berlin, it's also very tied into the startup scene. Last year, 25% of graduates started their own companies. And that might have been an outlier year, but still shows the school's connection to the startup scene in Germany and in Berlin. And the program is coming on strong in the rankings. It was ranked 30th by the Economist this year, 29th for their EMBA program. And the school hopes to be ranked by the FT next year for its full-time MBA program. And, it's really quite a unique offering. Students can get 3 months of intensive German language training for free before the course starts. Of course, knowing German is very important to getting jobs within Germany. And graduates can stay in Germany for up to 18 months to find work. So it's a great way to get international exposure in one of the world's leading economies that is looking for more international talent. And of course, as I repeat every episode, if you guys need help figuring out what is the best school for you, what are some interesting MBA options for you, go to touchmba.com, get yourself signed up, and we'll help you out for free. Now, on to the episode. Today, we are going to be speaking with our first German MBA program that we've had on the Touch MBA podcast. I'd like to welcome Jolene Monson, who is the Marketing Manager of Degree Programs at ESMT, to the show. She's been working for ESMT for over 5 years, so I'm sure she has a lot to share about the full-time MBA program and about MBAs in Germany and how they're viewed. So welcome to the show, Jolene.
Oh, thank you very much. Hi, Darren. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, so Jolene and I actually met at the MBA fair in Ho Chi Minh City. So, Jolene, I just first like to ask you, what makes the ESMT MBA unique from other top business schools?
Well, there's quite a handful of points. I think a lot of people really focus on the fact that we are in Germany, so you're getting a global MBA. Very, very diverse international feeling in the MBA, but you are also located in Germany, which is a pretty unique place to study business. You're looking at an economy that's still mainly based on manufacturing, based on industry, but is still one of the top exporters in the world. So it's very high-end exporting. You think of BMW and Daimler. You think of high-tech equipment. And then at the same time, you get a very global atmosphere on campus. So we only accept about 50 to 60 students a year. We usually get about 30 nationalities in there. So for the level of diversity in your teams and in your groups, it's really impressive.
And I saw that ESMT's tagline is the business school founded by business. And It's a relatively young school. Can you tell us a little bit more about the history of the school and the MBA program?
Yeah, I sure can. So we were founded in 2002. We're 11 years old now. We were founded basically by 25 global companies. That includes Siemens, Bosch, Daimler, BMW, Bayer, Healthcare. And all of these companies came together trying to create a business school that could deliver quality education in Germany. So basically they were a little bit tired of sending, their executive education programs to London or to Boston for their executive education, and they wanted something that they could use in Germany that had also a German spin on business education. So in 2002, we opened. We started with executive education, so very high-end, very tailored programs. A lot of our executive education is for top management or people entering top management, so we're very high level there. And then in 2006, we started the MBA, and in 2007, we started the EMBA. So we went sort of the reverse order of opening our programs. We started at the top and then worked down. So next year, we're just starting our pre-experienced master's program. We don't offer any bachelor's yet. So we sort of started with executive level and then worked down on our way. I think that shows in the experience of the program because you definitely get a lot of personal attention. A lot of executive coaching happens in the MBA. You're able to network with top business leaders during our master classes when we have the CEOs and CFOs of our founding companies come and talk in closed door sessions. So it's a unique atmosphere because of our history, but we've grown a lot in 11 years. It's been amazing to sit here and watch it.
Yeah, and I feel like the story of ESMT sort of reflects the development of the MBA degree itself in Germany. I mean, it's a relatively new phenomenon there.
It is, yeah. So when we opened our MBA, there was another business school in Germany that opened the MBA as well, and there was maybe a third MBA that has been doing their MBAs for a little bit longer. So you have about 4 business schools who are really competing on a global level for their MBA programs, and all of them are quite young. All of them are just either joining the rankings or getting really active in the rankings. Many of the business schools have just gotten their final accreditations, their AACSB and AMBAs and things. So it's a really interesting time to be in the market in Germany. But it's really great as well because, those are 4 really good top schools, and all 4 of us offer something just slightly different. So if you're looking at an MBA for Germany, you've got 4 choices, and you can really look at all 4 of them and decide which one is your best fit. And they're all very different in their personality and in their course offerings. So it usually makes it really easy for students to choose among them.
Right. And how do employers view MBAs in Germany?
It's still developing, and usually what I've seen is that MBAs in Germany are definitely growing in popularity. The Germans who do MBAs, in my experience, are using them as an international boost or as a complement to their engineering or scientific study beforehand. It's very common in Germany to have engineers do our MBA programs. Usually our MBA students are hired to bring an international and a global element to the table, more so than what a general master's in business would do, a pre-experienced master's in business would do. So, for example, some of our students, or many of our students, have been hired by what's called in Germany the Mittelstand companies, so the middle-sized companies, who are maybe just entering certain global markets, or who want to quickly develop into certain global markets or launch their products globally that have been very successful in Germany. And for this, our international students especially are able to gain quite a lot of responsibility really quickly as sort of the only international person in the company who is in charge of launching operations in India or launching a new product in the US and Latin America. So we see a lot of people taking a little bit more global, very international roles after the MBA.
Interesting. So I can't wait to talk more about that when we talk more about careers. But in terms of the actual curriculum itself, is ESMT particularly strong in any discipline?
Yeah, we offer 2 official specializations, and then through some of our extracurricular activities, a lot of people add on a 3rd as well. So during the elective periods, you're able to specialize in technology management or global sustainability. Most students spend a little bit of their time on both specializations. In technology management, most of our classes focus on R&D management, R&D development, launching new products onto the market, new product development, how to create a new supply chain for products, how to create a need on the marketplace for a new technology when nobody understands what that is. So you can think of an iPad, for example. When the iPad was launched, everybody wanted one, even though nobody really understood what it was until they actually had it in their hands. Creating that market buzz we have a course that does that as well. We also do a global sustainability specialization, which focuses on CSR, long-term planning, marketing to the bottom of the pyramid, a lot of global issues, doing sustainable supply chain management, that sort of stuff. And through the Social Impact Club, you're able to really specialize and get involved in the local social entrepreneurship startup scene, or to NGOs and do your consulting project with something with a CSR bent. So right now we have a group of students working with the World Economic Forum, for example, on a project on African agriculture. And thirdly, we have a really strong reputation in entrepreneurship, just because we are located in Berlin, and it is a huge startup hub right now. And a lot of our students who stay in Berlin, depending on the year, it can be anywhere from 20 to 50%. Most of them go to work in a local startup or start their own business. So last year, 26% of our students either started a business or went back to their previous business that they had started before doing the MBA. And through the Entrepreneurship Club, you get a lot of contacts to local startups that students have done, or startups where students are working in, and you're really able to network and get a lot of interesting contacts through that.
Wow. So you said 26% of last year's graduates started their own businesses.
Yeah, that's huge. It's huge even for us. Usually it's one or two students. It was just particularly huge last year.
So that could just be, Berlin blowing up as a startup hub, or just that particular class. But that's a huge percentage of students.
Yeah, it's really huge. Well, what helped a lot is during the last 3 weeks of the year, during the last 3 weeks of our MBA, we do a business planning workshop. And you're put into teams. Every team has to develop a new business model, a business idea, and basically write a business plan for it and do basically a presentation for investors at the end of the exercise. That's sort of the capstone of our MBA. And 3 of the teams last year used that experience to basically write a business plan for something that they were thinking of starting. So all 3 of those companies sort of went into the market afterwards. And that was the 3rd year that we've done it. So I just hope that it continues to be just as successful.
That's great. And how many electives do students have to take? It looked like you had about 12 to 13 core classes.
There's a 6-week elective module. We have about 14 electives on offer every year, and students have to take 7 or 8, and you can take up to 9. And some of those, and it depends on the credits. Basically, some of our classes are 2 credits and some are 3, and you have to take a certain number of credits. But yeah, you end up with 7 to 9 electives out of the group.
What do students tell you are the benefits and the drawbacks of having such a relatively small class of about 60 students?
Well, the biggest benefit is that we do a lot of team building in the MBA, and you're able to really get involved in international team building. So you're not in huge lecture halls. You're not really hanging out with 400 other people. You're just a really small group. So you get to know that small group very, very closely. We give the students a lot of 360-degree feedback sessions, team building workshops. During the career counseling, that can be an aspect as well, to really talk about what your strengths and weaknesses are. So you're able to get this amazing feedback during the program of people who really notice how you work in a team and notice what you do and don't do well. Some people who wanted to go into consulting have realized during the MBA from their team feedback that they perform at their best at a certain stress level that might be better suited to corporate strategy instead of consulting. You get a lot of feedback. You talk about that with your career counselor that you're meeting with every other week, and you're able to really define your career plan in a way that I think is really difficult when you're in a larger classroom, when you're in a larger class cohort. The biggest drawback, I think, is that we do only offer 14 electives, so you don't have this huge catalog of 200 electives to choose from. You really have to be sure when you apply to ESMT that what we do and what we're interested in is also what you're interested in. So if you think that going to work at Wall Street in high finance and maybe going to work at Bain Capital or something is where you want to go, then we don't have those electives and those specializations for you. So we can't really be everything to everyone. We're looking for the people who are just as interested in the things we're interested in as we are.
Why should candidates get their MBA in Berlin and Germany?
Yeah, this is a question that I'm always answering actually when I'm on the road, because there's only 4, global players, maybe let's call them, on the German market. So at fairs, usually I'm the only German school there, especially when I'm in Vietnam or Singapore or somewhere. There's quite a lot of advantages of coming to Germany and coming to Berlin. I can maybe structure my answer in the personal benefits that you get and the professional benefits that you get. So, of course, coming to Germany and coming to Europe in general means that you're going to be exposed to a whole new or a whole different portfolio of companies that you might not be exposed to if you do your MBA in Houston or California. So you're able to really network with companies that are different. You'll get contacts in Siemens and Bosch, all of our founding companies, as well as the middle-sized companies here in Germany. The startup scene here is a little bit different from what you would see at Silicon Valley as well. And we send a group of students every year to Silicon Valley to kind of look at those differences. But yeah, the atmosphere is a little bit different, and for some people that's really interesting to see and to get involved in. Of course, when people come to Germany or come to Europe for their MBA, they're looking to stay in Germany or stay in Europe, especially if they're coming from Asia or the Americas. And Germany offers a lot of benefits for living in Germany. So first off is that you get at least 5 weeks of paid vacation, no matter what your position is. Most students get a little bit more than that when they enter the German job market, between 6 to 8 weeks. I've seen people negotiate 8 or 9 weeks before. So you're not stuck with just 2 weeks of vacation, and it's really just lovely to have that extra vacation time so that you can take 3 weeks over Christmas, you can go home for New Year. All of that stuff is just lovely. You're also in Europe, which is really romantic, let's say. So you can go to the castles. I have friends in London and in Dublin, and I can just jump on a plane and go visit them for just very little money, and it's not a big deal. So you can take weekend trips to a different country every weekend and spend years without seeing everything. And that's great to just be in such a diverse continent that's so lovely to be in. So those would be, in my opinion, the best options. Yeah.
So if we could now talk more about ESMT admissions and what type of students that your program is looking for, with a class size of 60, and I saw you tend to trend higher in terms of experience and age than most other MBA programs. So yeah, what are you looking for? Who are you looking for?
Yeah, that's true. Well, we do. Our students are a little bit older than what you might see in other global MBA programs. We require 3 years of experience, and we don't count traineeships, assistantships, internships, anything like that. We almost always don't count those. So there are some exceptions, but they're very rare. So you really do need a little bit more experience than what you're looking at in another MBA program. That said, if you are a little bit older, if you're 30, 31 and looking for an MBA, you would have very similar people in the class if you come to ESMT. You'd be learning from your classmates instead of maybe teaching them if you go to an MBA that's a little bit younger in their class. We're also, of course, I already mentioned, we don't offer a lot of electives. The electives we do offer are very good. So we're looking for people who are interested in technology management, who have career goals and academic interests that fit into our school and to what we offer. So we take people every year who are coming from the United Nations, for example, or from NGOs. We have a student from Amnesty International in our executive MBA right now. They do really well in the global sustainability. People interested in the startup culture do really well as well, especially if they're interested in high-tech startups and online startups. We do well with those. But you should definitely, we aren't everything to everyone, so you can't come into our program and say, I'm just going to see where I end up at the end, because we can't give you everything. And so we're looking for people with career goals that really fit with ESMT, people who've done their homework on ESMT and know what they're looking for. Yeah, and then everything else that we're looking for is the same as every other business school, right? So smart people with good experience who are assertive and have, a good level of growth in their careers before all of the normal things. Yeah.
Great. And so that's 3 years of minimum experience by the time the student enrolls.
Right, exactly.
Got it. And you mentioned how ESMT is one of 3 or 4 players in the German market MBA space. What is the reputation of ESMT MBAs? What makes them different from the other schools' MBAs?
Well, they're a little bit older. We tend to have a little bit more engineers than the other programs have. So we have, if you count both engineers and IT professionals, we have about 50% are engineers or IT professionals. So it's a little bit more technical, our MBA. We also have quite a few entrepreneurs, like I already mentioned. So there is that little bit of reputation as well. Our students tend to go into pretty good levels of work experience and pretty good levels of responsibility when they finish the program. Finally, we are known for our global diversity. So especially in Germany, we only accept about 5 or 6 Germans a year. So for Germans who don't want to do an MBA with other Germans, we're the place that they come. Yeah.
Wow. So that's like a 90%, your class is basically 90% international.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. And do you have an average GMAT score and a minimum GMAT score?
Yeah, our minimum GMAT score is a 550. Our average GMAT score is a 640 right now. So if you have, let's say, a 550 to 600 and you have a good story to tell, you should be fine. But if you have a 550 and maybe have only 3 years of work experience, then it might be worth studying a little bit more and taking the GMAT again.
Great, perfect. And in terms of your admissions dates, I noticed ESMT has rolling admissions. You encourage international candidates to apply before November.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
The question, a lot of my audience would like to know is, do they have a better chance if they apply earlier?
Probably yes. So I can put it this way, in April, we might have 10% of the class enrolled already. So we still have quite a lot of seats available. By November 1st, the last minute deadline, we might have 2/3 of the class full already. So if we get a lot of applications right at the last minute deadline, then the competition will be higher, naturally. We do have, a limited number of seats in class. We also give you benefits to applying early. So if you apply by July 1st, you can enroll in German classes during a few months before the MBA starts, and that would be included in your tuition, so basically free. And, if you apply, most of our scholarships are awarded earlier in the year as well. So if you apply before the September 1st deadline, you definitely have a higher chance of getting a scholarship or getting one of our named scholarships. So all of that would, helps encourage people to apply early. If you wait until the last minute deadline, you might be fine if you're a top candidate. You might also not be able to come because you can't get your visa on time if you come from a country that needs a little bit of time for a visa. So that's also a thing to consider, is that you need at least 2 months to get your visa cleared away for a lot of countries. Some countries you might even need 3 or 4 months if you have to apply twice or something.
Got it. So crystal clear. And with the January start date, do students participate in internships during the year?
Well, we don't actually do internships because in German culture, internships are for very young people. So there's no culture in Germany of MBA internships, basically, like there is in the United States or in Canada. So what we do instead are consulting projects, and we source them through our alumni, through our corporate founders, and through other business contacts that come to us. Every year we have a few companies who just come to us and say, we have a project, can you give us some students? So most of the companies pay for those projects. That goes into our scholarship fund. That's how we fund a lot of our scholarships. And those projects are usually quite intense, but also rewarding. A lot of them have to do with launching products or developing an internationalization strategy for a new startup, for example, doing a research project with Deloitte, or working at the World Economic Forum, like what we have this year for one of our groups. So.
Right, and is German a prerequisite to being admitted to the program?
No, definitely not. So most of our students, when they start the MBA, don't speak German, actually. It's definitely, it definitely looks good on your resume if you speak a little bit of German. And it is definitely much, much easier to find a job, of course, if you speak German. But if you do apply to the MBA in Berlin and to the ESMT MBA, there are, we give you some tools to learn German. So it's not the end of the world if it's your heart desire to do your MBA here and stay in Germany. If you apply early, you can do these intensive German courses. Those start in October. So that's, I think, 2.5 months, 5 hours a day of German. That's enough to get to an intermediate level, usually, for the students. And then during the year, we do offer optional German classes as well. And those can even help people with an intermediate level when they come into the program. The teacher goes over interview skills in German, helps them write their CVs and cover letters in German as well. So what I usually tell students is, if you have an MBA, and especially if you have technical skills or a really good CV background behind you when you come to Germany, if you learn up to an intermediate level, just to prove to companies that you're willing to make the effort and that you're trying to integrate and that you're trying to make those extra steps, then a lot of times companies will hire you under the assumption that you'll continue to improve your German. Maybe they might even give you a German tutor to help you. And then during the first year of working in Germany, most students are fluent by that time, especially if they've gone to work for a company where they're the only international worker, let's say there. Yeah.
Wow, you must get some really smart students if they're able to pick up German so quickly and they're 30 plus. I mean, I know how hard it is for me to learn languages.
Well, I mean, it's 3 months and it's 5 hours a day. And you're also living in Germany, so when you're not doing that, it's also at the Goethe Institute, so they have quite a good reputation of getting people at a really good level of German pretty quickly. They also offer a lot of social things, so they might do parties or maybe going to the Christmas markets when they open in November and December, just to give you a little bit of extra practice. And then you're living in Germany, so when you go to the restaurant, when you go to the supermarket, it's always practicing.
So not only do you get an MBA from ESMT, but if you apply early, you get free German language training. So take note, those of you listening. It's a great opportunity. So I guess my last question on admissions is, could you recommend any last tips on what applicants can do to improve their chances?
Well, the big tip that I always give is don't take the essays lightly, especially if you're, applying from Siberia or rural China or something. We don't expect your essays to read as if you are James Joyce or someone. We do, though, want to look to make sure that you've reflected on the essays, that you're really reading the questions that we're asking and thinking about what we're trying to ask of you and representing yourself really well. So we do actually read the essays. We do take them pretty seriously as well. And they're there for most students, they're our only window into what the student actually is. So of course, we get a lot of engineers who worked in an IT company for 4 years and are applying to an MBA and who have decent grades. And the only way that they can really make themselves seem a little bit different from all of the other IT professionals is to have a good essay and to have something really good to say. It doesn't mean you have to lie or anything, but just having some good reflections on it is the best thing that I can say.
Okay. Any other tips?
Well, the only other thing I can say is we do ask you to upload your CV or email us your CV if you want a first impression of how we think you would fit into the course. And definitely keep those CVs to 102 pages. So we've received eight-page CVs before, and it doesn't make a very good impression. So definitely being concise is also a great skill to learn.
That's great advice. I really appreciate that. And I think that applies to most business schools as well. If you're getting an informal CV review, don't send a book. I mean, that will instantly turn off whoever's reading, your CV. So in terms of scholarships, Jolene, what percentage of your class gets scholarships? And can you let us know what the average scholarship amounts are?
Sure. We don't really have an average scholarship amount just because it is based a lot on each individual application. A lot of our students get some form of scholarships. I would say it's maybe 70%, but that also is including people who get maybe 5,000 euros in scholarships or 4,000 euros in scholarships. The people who get full tuition scholarships or even 50% scholarships are pretty rare. So the scholarships are pretty competitive in that sense. What we do have, which helps a lot of students, is we work with Prodigy Loan Finance. They work with, I think, about 8 or 9 other European business schools, and students from about 150 countries can apply for a loan through there. And you don't need a cosigner. It's the loan interest and the loan risk is based on what you're probably going to be earning after you graduate, given our previous students' salary records, let's say. So it's a really accessible way for people to finance their MBA and make it possible. So we don't expect you to have 40,000 euros in your pocket to come to ESMT, but we try to make it as available as possible to anybody who's good enough to make it in.
But in terms of scholarships then, how do you decide on scholarship funding? Is it through financial need or merit or work experience?
Yeah, it's both merit and a little bit need-based as well. So we have a scholarship committee and admissions committee. So the admissions committee decides whether you're accepted or not, and then the application goes directly to a scholarship committee. That is a panel of the program director, the dean, a few professors who rotate every year, and they decide on the scholarship amounts when they go through. So it's not just your GMAT, it's not just your CV, it's also your essays and what we think you can bring to the class as well. So we have had students with a slightly, a little bit below average GMAT score, but through their essays and their personal interview, they had a lot of really interesting things to say, and they were coming from a really different industry background, and we thought that it would be really great to have him in class, so he got a little bit extra scholarship.
Got it. And can you tell us a little bit more about the interviews that you conduct? Who actually conducts the interviews?
They're usually done either through our MBA director or through our head of career services, Marcel Callis. So either Nick Barneville or Marcel Callis probably does 80% of the interviews. They are about an hour long. For people who can't make it to Berlin for their interview, we do interviews on Skype. And they're exactly like a job interview, really. We don't have a set script. We don't have a set of questions that we absolutely have to ask. A lot of it is getting a feeling for your personality and how you react to different things. And a lot of it is to see if you would fit in with our school, if you're a person that we think we would like to work with. And then, of course, if we have any questions about your application, we'll take the opportunity to ask it then as well.
Perfect. So if we can now talk about careers, do a lot of the companies that helped found ESMT recruit from the school as well?
That's a really great question. It depends on the company and it depends on the year as well. So one of our founding companies, Allianz, is one of our top recruiters. Another one of our founding companies, McKinsey, always recruits at least someone from our MBA so far every year, so that we've run the program. We have some companies in Germany who haven't really figured out how to deal with MBAs in their recruitment strategy yet. For them, they either don't hire MBAs at all because they channel their employees in a very hierarchical, from 18 years old to 65 sort of a way.
Wow.
And other companies, will recruit a student when they have a specific role for them to fill inside the company. So German companies so far don't have an MBA rotation program or something like that you would see in some of the American companies.
Right.
At the same time, though, when you're hired by a German company, you are, put in a level of responsibility right away. In addition to our founding companies, we also work with quite a few other companies who almost always recruit with us. So we've had Johnson & Johnson on campus before. We've had other American companies as well. So it hasn't just been our founding companies that we serve our students for.
And how do students go about finding jobs, during the one-year program? Could you share some of the ways they've done so and how career services also helps them?
Since we are such a small campus or such a small class, we do an individualized approach to career services. We have a head of career services, and he works with 3 career coaches. And you meet with the coach once every 2 to 3 weeks. Marcel schedules that for you. And you pretty much have to do it. If you don't want to do the career counseling, then we really have to sit down and talk with you. But with the coaching, you're able to do a personalized career plan. You're able to reflect on your experience. In addition to the coaching, we do a full, seminar sessions that are integrated into the course schedule. So you do industry awareness days for very popular industries that students want to go into. We do personality testing, different tests to think about where you do well at and what you do well at. Towards the middle of the year, we do company visits. So Marcel has done 2-day trips to Munich, Stuttgart, and Frankfurt to visit some of the companies that aren't exactly in Berlin. We've also done 2-day visits to startups here in Berlin as well, where we visit Zalando and some of the more famous startups here in Berlin, so that you're able to broaden your network a little bit. And then towards the end of the year, of course, we focus on interview skills workshops and a recruitment day as well. Yeah, so students find their job through a variety of ways. There's always a few that get a job in a very traditional MBA sense, where you go to the recruitment day, you visit a company who's visiting campus, and you get a job offer through that. We always have quite a few who find jobs that way. We also have an alumni day in October. The students are invited to that, and quite a few alumni will recruit our students as well. And then finally, we also, through the career coaching, help students apply directly to companies, which is the way that many students find jobs as well. So it's usually a combination of different tactics and different strengths to try to find the position for you.
Got it. It sounds like a very personalized approach to career services, meeting with a coach 15, 16 times over the course of the year. Is ESMT well known in Germany? So, even if the companies, say, aren't hiring MBAs, is it a well-known institution that will help open doors?
I think it is, and it's certainly growing every year. Ever since I started in 2008, I've been able to see the difference and see the difference. Even when I get into taxis here in Berlin, I used to have to give the address and explain how to get here. And now I just say that business school and they take me directly here. So it's just in the past 5 years, it's grown immensely. The awareness of ESMT in Germany is getting larger and larger every year, let's say. And in the companies where we have really good contacts, people know us quite well. In the companies where we maybe have just a starting contact, it's growing quite quickly. So yeah, I think we have a good reputation, especially a good reputation for the global MBA and the international experience sort of aspect of the MBA. So when companies are looking for sort of an international management position or a position that's looking at an international market, they usually come to us to find someone that would fit that position.
What is the best way for candidates to talk to students and alumni of the program to hear more about their experiences?
Well, if you can come to Berlin, of course, that's the best way. We organize for people coming to Berlin who want to visit campus. We organize that on a one-on-one basis where students can participate in a course for a morning or an afternoon, have lunch with a student or coffee with a student, and then have a one-on-one meeting with an admissions representative as well to talk about the school and what we could offer them. And we do those, depending on the week, 5 to 8 a week. So there's usually just one person a session who's doing that. We do open door days as well, so there's always those options. And then if you do send your CV to the admissions office and you ask for a CV review, you can also ask for some alumni contacts. And if we think that you're a promising candidate, if you have a promising CV, then we can send you a few contacts of people who are similar to you, maybe either from the same country or from the same background, or people who succeeded in making a career change that you would like to do as well. So you can hear their opinion on the program and how it is. We're pretty open with our alumni, and our alumni are always really helpful to talk to students. So, yeah.
Great. And one question I forgot to ask you on career services is visas in Germany.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Well, if you come from Canada or the US or Europe, basically, you don't need a visa to come to Germany. So you can just enter Germany when you're accepted into the program and start the MBA, and then we'll help you with the residence permit. For people from almost every other country, you have to apply before you come to Germany for the MBA. And we give you a few guidelines and a few steps to do that. We give you all of the documents you need from us, like the enrollment papers and everything. And then you file your visa there at the German embassy. When you arrive on campus, we file your residence permit for you, so you're able to have a residence permit until the end of the program in December. As the program is wrapping up, we'll ask people who is interested in staying. So with a German degree, it's very easy to stay in Germany. Germany makes it very, very easy. So you're guaranteed a residence permit to stay in Germany for 18 months after you graduate to find a job. That's called a job-seeking visa. Once you have a job offer, the companies in Germany don't have to sponsor you. They don't have to fill out any special forms to prove that they have to hire a foreigner. You're basically, in the eyes of a company, once you have a German degree, you're just like a German. So they basically a company writes you a job offer letter, one page, very simple, and you take that to the foreign office, and you're guaranteed a work permit to stay in Germany for as long as you have a job. You're also guaranteed to stay in Germany if something bad happens and you lose your job, for example. You're able to stay in Germany until your unemployment benefits run out. And once you're in Germany for 5 years, you can apply for a permanent residence permit in Germany, which gives you all of the working rights of any other EU permanent resident.
Wow, that is really incredible. So an 18-month time frame to find a job that suits you after the program in Germany, if you so wish to stay. And I guess, is there anything else about the ESMT MBA that you wish more candidates knew about?
Well, one thing that we've started getting really competitive in, and that we're growing very, very quickly right now, is with the rankings. So we just joined the Economist ranking in place 30 on the first year that we were ranked. And we're hoping to join the Financial Times ranking next January when it comes in, which is the first year that we're eligible. And we're ranked 29th in the executive MBA ranking that just came out today, the day that we're taping. So it's we're growing, and we're growing in reputation and in the rankings as well. So people often get a little bit concerned because Germany isn't a traditional place to spend your MBA time. But now that we've got 11 years behind us, we're entering the rankings at very, very competitive places. And I think we're just as competitive when you look at the numbers and when you look at the algorithms that the ranking agencies are using to rank the MBA schools. We're succeeding just as much as the traditional MBA schools that you have on offer.
Excellent. And then finally, just to close the program, could you describe the ESMT MBA in 140 characters or less?
Well, I'm not used to tweeting, actually. I'm not the tweeter of ESMT, but I can try my best. I would say ESMT, global MBA made in Germany for technology and sustainable development.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time, Jolene.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on the show.
No worries. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Touch MBA podcast. Don't be shy. We have a mailing list. Go to touchmba.com and get yourself signed up. And we'll keep you posted with the best tips and insider interviews on how to get into your number one school. You can also find us on Twitter and Facebook at Touch MBA. See you soon.